Man, it's always, I say it's a pleasure, and it is, but it's always one of those conflicting things whenever we get the Ravens Steelers week, because we know we get to catch up with a friend and a great man who's always doing good things for his community. The problem is, it always just brings back memories of the time he came into Baltimore and beat the Ravens, and we don't like thinking about that. He is former Steelers quarterback, TV analyst in Pittsburgh, and just all-around good guy, Charlie Batch, and he is back with us now here on GCR. Charlie, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It really is always great to catch up with you, buddy. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Hey, not a problem. I appreciate you having me on. It's always fun.
Man, I know we have so much we got to cover with you, but I remember talking the last time about this massive facility that you were building for the Best of the Batch Foundation. It just blew my mind about how much it's grown. And I know you have your big event coming up tonight. Can you remind everybody about all that stuff before we dive into this game?
Yes. So earlier this year, we actually had a ribbon cutting as we went from 5,300 square feet to 33,000 square feet. So with our Best of the Batch Foundation, as we celebrated 25 years, and it's just exciting because we're an educational foundation. We focus on our STEAM programs and our after-school programs. So it's really exciting to really have that going on. And the kids love it, which they don't want to leave, which is why we built it. But also, you need to help raise funds. And doing so, tonight we're having an event, which is a pool, poker, and ping pong event. So it's the Steelers, it's the local celebrities around Pittsburgh. They have an opportunity to play against the fans for bragging rights, and it's really cool as bragging rights are at stake as everybody's playing a little pool, poker, and ping pong event. So with all that being said, if anybody wants to be a part of it, they actually can go to batchfoundation.org. You can see everything that we do on a calendar year because we get excited as we serve 3,800 kids. 3,800 kids annually in 9 counties throughout southwestern PA. So it's really exciting because we're grateful and thankful for everybody who believes in the mission and vision of the Best of the Batch Foundation.
Is this right? Are you really 25 years into doing this?
Yes, 25 years.
That's
so
awesome.
We just celebrated. We started January of 1999 when I was in Detroit, did some one-off programs there in Detroit, and then ultimately when I got to Pittsburgh, that's when we redirected our foundation goals from Detroit to Pittsburgh, and we've been off and running ever since.
That's awesome, Charlie. First of all, congratulations, man. It's a testament to you and to your vision and to what you care about. And we'll continue to point people to batchfoundation.org to find out more. But it's amazing, seriously, man. What you do for that community, it's unbelievable.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
That said, we hope it's a miserable day for you on Sunday. Charlie, I think we always start this way, right? Ravens, Steelers, those are just words that mean more significant things. But, the last few years, for a bunch of different weird reasons, these games have not maybe meant quite as much, despite both teams being good. They're, backup quarterbacks playing, or the COVID year, or whatever it was. What does it mean to you, to the football, that we get to have another massively significant mano-a-mano Ravens-Steelers showdown this week?
It's always exciting, and especially around Pittsburgh, this is really the only week that they get excited about anybody on the schedule, and this is Ravens week. You don't do that every week during the course of a schedule. So people who are familiar with this rivalry, doesn't matter how far you go back, people know it's going to be a hard, tough fight game. And the players, they're all new, but they're familiar with this rivalry because a lot of them were watching this rivalry as they were growing up. Now to be a part of it, this is really essentially when you make a play in this game that matters, people and fans remember that moment in this particular game and they'll remember it for a long time, well after your playing career.
There's no doubt about that. And, of course, over the years, the story of this rivalry was largely built on defense, and that's changed. Certainly has changed in Baltimore, where defense is optional at this point. Charlie, I say this, though. What the Ravens are doing offensively, what Lamar Jackson has been doing, I'm almost at a point where I believe it might be impervious to defense. Like that. It just doesn't matter, and that doesn't mean they're going to win every game because, again, the Ravens' defense has not been great, but as good as the Steelers' defense is, as good as T.J. Watt is there a defense, is there a team that is capable of taking Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry out of what it is that we have seen them do since they got together this season?
Yeah, well, there's not saying that you can completely take him out of the game, right? One thing with Derrick Henry, if you kind of continue to load the box, but then that leaves you a little bit more vulnerable on the outside that Lamar Jackson can actually utilize his legs and really make you pay for it if are not committed to him. So I think that's something that when you look at just the way that this defense has been structured, it's structured to face the Baltimore Ravens, and they're trying to have the speed on the outside. That's where you have T.J. Watt and you have Alex Highsmith, but he's not going to play in this particular game today. So if that's Nick Herbig or Preston Smith, whoever's filling that void, it's going to be a huge task for him because they're going to have to control the edge to minimize what Lamar Jackson does.
What do you say about Lamar, Charlie? Like we are running out of it here. It's almost like an out-of-body experience watching this dude play football each week. And I know that you probably don't want to praise the Ravens too much leading into this game, but how do you describe the level that he has reached as he is marching his way towards a third MVP season?
Yeah, it's remarkable, and it's just amazing because, you go from the start of his career, and then he falls at the bottom of the first round, and people, there were people out there saying that the way he plays doesn't transition into the NFL. And boy, has he made everybody look like a laughing stock because of the way he plays. Like you mentioned, going on to his third MVP at this particular manner. I'm happy for him. I'm a huge fan of Lamar, love everything about him. And for me, I have the opportunity to know how he's being coached because offensive coordinator Todd Monken, he was my wide receivers coach at Eastern Michigan. So I know what he's all about. He's like, an uncle to me. So I know the type of coaching that he's getting. So just the success that both of those two are having, man, from afar, I'm excited about it. I'm only excited, just not as excited about it in the 2, maybe 3 times that the Steelers-Ravens play.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a marriage, obviously, those two guys working together. He is Charlie Batch. He's with us here on GCR as we get ready for Ravens Steelers on Sunday. All right, Charlie, let's talk about the Steelers. Obviously Mike Tomlin made the decision to go with Russell Wilson. It's paid dividends. I've watched a good bit of those games. I don't know that I would say this looks like vintage Russell Wilson. It looks like a guy that, the moon balls are vintage Russell Wilson, right? But, what has he brought totally to this team? And in what ways maybe are they still vulnerable at all offensively? Because it does still seem like there's maybe the middle of the field isn't being used completely to this point.
Yeah, when the narrative that was created when Russ was leaving Denver, you're kind of like, okay, where did that come from? And then when you kind of just do a little bit of homework, you're like, I don't understand where, this negativity is coming from. It was over 3,000 yards last year, 26 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and yet he missed games. So that number could even be better. And then all of a sudden, but when you're a player, you understand you've been around the NFL, you're like, that wasn't because of performance on the field. It was strictly salary, and they didn't want to, bring that into this season. So they, removed themselves from that contract. But here he is in Pittsburgh, man. He's been nothing but honorable, and players love him. The organization love him, the leadership. It's one thing physically on the field, the things that you're able to bring, but off the field, those intangibles, the leadership that's needed on this young offensive side of the ball, he brought that. And Mike Tomlin doesn't shy away from conversations. He knew it was an open competition between Russ and Justin. Russ started separating himself and ultimately was named the starter week 1. He just got hurt, and then that allowed Justin Fields for those 6 weeks to be able to play. But when you look at where everything was, and of course it wasn't a sexy decision around the country, but when he reinserted Russell into the lineup, it wasn't because of the record. The record was 4-2. It was mainly because when you peel back the layers, offensively, they were 28th in passing. And that formula is what they used over the last few years underneath Matt Canada as the offensive coordinator. They could not go down that path again. So he made the move, and that's an area that this team could get better at because they're 28th. I don't know exactly where they are now, but it's trending in the right direction, and that's something that's going to continue to get better as the season goes on.
Charlie, I bring up, obviously, the deep balls, and we call them the moon balls because they just hang up there. And look, that connection with George Pickens has been unbelievable, clearly. They bring in Mike Williams as well in order to help that. If that was all it was, I'd be concerned about it because the Ravens defensive backs, that's been a liability this season. But am I wrong when, again, I look at the passing charts, I watch the games, it does seem like it's mostly been underneath and then the moon balls. Is there still another aspect of this offense that can be there in the middle of the field, or is that, because that was the one thing that I think was fair about the criticism in Denver last year, is that they kind of limited it to underneath and moon balls for Russell Wilson?
Yeah, I think when you look at just the way the stature is, I mean, the one area that you could potentially get better in that middle of the field is utilizing Pat Fryermuth a lot more in the middle of the field. Something that he doesn't really complain about it, but there are times that he is open, but he wasn't the first option in that particular manner. So I can see them using Pat Fryermuth a lot more tight end here in Pittsburgh. But ultimately now, who is going to be that second, third receiver? We did see some great options as it relates to Calvin Austin doing his thing. Mike Williams caught the game-winning touchdown pass. Van Jefferson. So somebody else needs to step up on the other side of George Pickens in order to make this offense complete.
What is the ideal game? Like if they drew a roadmap of what it is they want to do in order to beat the Ravens on Sunday, what does that roadmap look like for Pittsburgh? Like ideally, what are they trying to do offensively in order to play their game?
Yeah, I think, if you can turn around and, early in ball games, the offense have been able to move the ball on the defense. But if the defense is able to create a turnover, get the offense back to ball, things haven't started. They're not a fast team as they start, but they wear the defense down. And ultimately in the second half, those numbers that are separating themselves because they're controlling the time of possession, that gives the defense an extra rest, and then they can go out there and play dominant football in the manner that they have in the second half. So it's very complimentary, but ultimately if the Steelers want to do it, they want to run the football and control that time of possession. So this, actually, I say all that to say this could possibly be one of the fastest games in the NFL because both teams are running the football.
There's no doubt about it. Is Charlie Batch. He's with us here on GCR as we're obviously getting ready for Ravens Steelers on Sunday. Charlie, on the flip side, right? Like we talk a lot about the Steelers, the defense, and I think part of that is they've got T.J. Watt, right? Like that's what you're gonna think about. That's the way that it goes. But are there vulnerabilities outside? It's not maybe the top unit in football. Besides the presence of this all-world player, where are they vulnerable? How is Patrick Queen fit in? Where are their chances to take advantage of the Steelers defensively?
Yeah, I think when you look at it, Patrick Queen has come on over the last month. He got off a little bit slow as you're, new to the team, but he is picking to get up. They love where he's at in the middle of the field, specifically coming off that Commanders game last week. I think the vulnerability right now is your mind is Alex Highsmith, who is your starting outside linebacker opposite T.J. Watt. With him out and Nick Herbert coming back from a hamstring injury, that is going to be an area that I feel the Ravens are going to test just to make sure that they can prove whether he's back healthy enough for that hamstring. So I think that's something that I'll pay attention as the game unfolds.
All right, this is this is Ravens Steelers, man. This is everything. I'm so glad that it means so much, Charlie. I'm so glad that this is what we got, and that it's not a Week 18 throwaway game where they're starting a Charlie bet. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, of course. I'm kidding. Charlie, remind everybody about the foundation, about what you're doing, about the event tonight, real quick.
Yes, absolutely. So we're doing a pool, poker, and ping pong event. This helps raise funds for our Best of the Batch Foundation and our STEAM programs and after-school programs. So we're super excited. We just celebrating 25 years of Best of the Batch Foundation. So we're super excited. So if anybody wants more information about that, they can go to batchfoundation.org. You'll see all the information on ways to support. And if you can't attend, look out for unique silent auction items. There's ways that you can be a part of it as well there.
At Charlie Batch 16 as well is how you follow him on Twitter. Charlie Batch, you're the best, man. Always appreciate you. Look forward to talking again here in a couple of weeks, all right?
I look forward to it. Appreciate you having me. Thanks.